I'm excited to have my guy Cortney Braswell on today's podcast. I've known Cortney for a minute. We're dating all the way back to maybe 2005, right? Almost 20 years ago, which is insane. In the running back room at Liberty University. We'll get all into that in a second here, but I'm excited to have Cortney on. He's the current linebackers coach at the University of Cincinnati in the Big 12 Conference, and he previously served as a head coach getting into football at the high school level after college. Was recently named the AFCA 35 under 35 coaches and was regarded as one of the top recruiters in the country at the Division I level. Prior to joining Cincinnati too, he spent some time at Army, Louisville, and App State as well, man. So, Cortney, it's a pleasure to have you on, bud.
Man, excited to have you. It's crazy. It's been almost 20 years, which should be impossible because I'm only 29.
There you go. Right.
So we must have met when we were 9. That's the only way I can make that make sense.
I was just thinking the other day, Coach Frank Hickson shot me a text message a little bit ago. Frankie, his son's playing in the CFL right now. And we were just talking and catching up a little bit. I was like, man, it's been a minute since, I've talked to Rajiv Ota, Rob Llewellyn. Right. Yeah. I mean, we've reconnected here in the last couple of years, but man, just going back to those days in 2005 and thinking about, meeting you guys and spending time together, and it's been crazy.
Man, that room, me, you, Rod, Zach, Rashad. I mean,
Zach.
Man, it's unbelievable. Just some of the human beings that were in the room, the kind of fun we had. We had a tremendous coach. Had a tremendous time. After the first year was a little bit rocky. Started out, man, but there's some things I learned from Liberty that I was able to take with me the rest of my life. I got a long list of what not to do. That's for sure.
I think we can all attest to that. I talked to Dana Rocco recently too, and it's funny just some of the stuff that he even talked about of like, hey, what we learned to do, what we learned we shouldn't be doing, along the way. But man, just some great guys I met, some great men, right, that we've had a chance to cross paths with, and really have an impact around each other's lives, man. So talk to me a little bit about you moving from Liberty, right? So we played together for a couple years. You transferred out on that, and then eventually landed in a spot getting back into coaching high school ball, right? So talk to me a little bit about how those days at Liberty translated into you saying, man, you know what, I think I want to be a coach.
I think for me, the biggest thing was it was a triumph of hard-headedness. I think I was a super, super hard-headed kid. I was homesick. I was a little immature going into college. And so even though I had everything I could possibly need at Liberty, great teammates, great coaches, I still had a lot of maturation to go through myself. And I think that's probably the part of my life where I found out going to class wasn't optional. And so I found that you quickly find out that it's not optional, that you have to go to class. And so after some twists and turns, I was back in my hometown and really just kind of trying to figure out what my purpose was and what my why was. My playing career didn't go the way I wanted to, at great detriment to myself. And so just trying to figure out what it was I wanted to do, man. And I started working at a place called D1 Sports Training, and I was doing like athletic training or sports specific training, and I was selling memberships to that gym, so to speak. And man, that's kind of where the bug kind of started. And I had the opportunity to go and work with a team doing sports specific training at Ringgold High School there in North Georgia. And the guy that was the head coach at Ringgold High School, Robert Akins, was a guy that was a legendary coach in Tennessee. Had won state championships at Boyd Buchanan High School in Tennessee. And so I had played against him in high school when he was coaching, and he offered me my first job, and it kind of went from there. And I absolutely fell in love with it. For me, it was kind of like the second act, and I became obsessed with it. And when your playing career doesn't go the way you want it to, you really want this coaching thing to work out, because I don't want to fail twice, so to speak. And so, man, I fell in love with it, and it really took off for me. I was there at Ringgold for a year, became defense coordinator at Soddy Daisy, and went Soddy Daisy and East Ridge and Notre Dame and North Murray, and then landed at Chattanooga Central as a defensive coordinator and Bradley Central, and ended up becoming the head coach in 2016 there at Chattanooga Central High School, and had a tremendous turnaround there, taking over a team that had lost like 23 straight games when I got there. We ended up my second year going to the second round of the playoffs, and then going to my hometown, Ridgeland High School, and being the head coach there and taking them to the second round of the playoffs before ultimately ended up at the University of Louisville, man. So it has been a roller coaster of a ride, and I've had a tremendous amount of really good players and coaches I've been around that have mentored me and helped me kind of get to this point. But it's kind of crazy to see, where things have gone in such what I feel like is a relatively short amount of time.
Yeah, well, it has been, right? Especially for the path that you took along the way, and you said something about your career didn't quite go as expected, and I think for all of us, in that running back room that we had multiple guys that were like state players of the year, right, and like led the state in rushing. I think like all of us in that room said that if I don't make it to the league, my career probably did not go as expected. Right, for that, and across the board, you look at the whole team that we played with. A lot of guys, I think, would kind of echo that. Really, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys we played with made it to the NFL. That's about it, right? For the other 95 of us, didn't quite go as expected, right? Weren't quite good enough to make that leap, and that's a hard transition to go through. I think for all, like whether you stay in football, you get in the business world, you teach, whatever it is. You don't think about that next step. You do conceptually, but your identity is so wrapped up in the day-to-day of football, it's hard to make that transition, right?
Oh, sure. And, for me, too, it's like my playing career ended in a question mark, not a period.
Yeah.
And it's certainly an exclamation. Well, I guess for me, it was just like I never really knew what could have been. Mm-hmm. It's like nothing matched. When I was playing well, I wasn't going to class. And when I was going to class, I wasn't playing well. I was injured. So it just seemed like nothing matched. There were so many things I didn't get answered. So this coaching thing, it just like I felt like it was my second act, so to speak. And so it's become my passion. And really, I find myself oftentimes repeating things that my coaches told me and going, hey, don't go down this path that I went. And I feel like I got a lot of experience in what not to do and trying to share that and coach with that and teach with that and be passionate about that. And really just try to right those wrongs that I really caused on myself, I guess, just trying to do better than what I was, because this game has been really good to us in a lot of ways. And so I want to try to be good to it back.
Yeah, that's just beautiful, man. And speaking of being beautiful to it back, right? You make a quick ascent through the high school ranks, right? D coordinator, head coach, especially at some of the places that you coached at in Tennessee and Georgia. Football's serious down there. Not that it's not serious up here in the north, but you guys take it a little serious, more serious in the south, right? So, as you were going through that, was the vision for you always to get back to the highest level of football in Division I in college, or you just kind of, hey, see where the next step goes and start to figure things out as opportunities presented themselves?
That's a good question. I think for me, it's like you have goals and you have standards, right? And so it seems to me like goals are things that are constantly changing and being reevaluated, but standards don't change. And so the standard for myself was like, just be better today than I was yesterday. And it was like this race in my mind of like, hey, if I can just if I can just get my degree, then I've been successful. If I can just, graduate with honors, if I can just become a high school coordinator, if I can become a head coach, if I can do all these things, it's like every time you reach these plateaus, success becomes redefined and you start chasing something else all over again. And so for me, I think that's kind of what it was I don't know that I ever knew it would end up here. To be honest with you and be really transparent, I still can't believe it. It's still surreal that to be going to this inaugural season in the Big 12 at a place like University of Cincinnati, that just in the college football playoff 2 seasons ago. They've been in New Year's Six bowls. It's really surreal to me. And so I don't know that I've always been concerned with the destination. I've just been kind of concerned with treating each day like it has its own specific history of its own and try to master that day and then try to do the same thing tomorrow and day after that. And then I guess when you add all those up over time, man, your career kind of takes off. And I've been really fortunate, but I think above all else was just trying to do right by people and give them the best version of myself and do the best I possibly could. You fail every day, you learn from your mistakes, but you just kind of hammer on. And I try to be in love with the process of growth and the process of coaching and not be emotionally tied to the results of like, what job do I have or how much money am I making and where am I going to coach? It's just like, man, I wanted to be, when I got to Louisville, I want to be the best quality control coach in America. When I got to App State, I want to be the best outside linebacker coach there, because there's a certain amount of when your playing career doesn't go the way you want to right those wrongs, but you also feel like, man, your family and other people that have kind of seen your career, you feel like in some way that you owe it to them to give it your best shot and put your best foot forward, because you feel like there's a lot of people depending on you. And so I've certainly learned a lot and been really grateful for that, man. But honestly, I just try to do the best job I can today, and it seems like it kind of takes care of itself.
Yeah. You don't see too many head coaches at the high school level making the jump right to Division One. So how did that opportunity present itself? Because I know there's a lot of guys and teachers that are at that high school level, like, man, I'd love to be in a more serious program potentially beyond high school, but it's tough to leave a base salary, a pension, all these other things, the stability that a high school coaching job and teaching job, has. So how did that opportunity present itself, and why did you make that jump from a career and maybe a financial standpoint?
The first thing was just it always starts with relationships. When I was coaching in 2015, I was coaching at Bradley Central High School, and a guy by the name of Dale Jones had graduated there, and Dale was coaching at Appalachian State University. So Dale was a UT legend, made this huge play in like 1984 against Alabama. Or 1985 maybe, I don't remember, but I think the number one boy's name in the state of Tennessee in the mid 80s was Dale. So he was a big time UT football player. His nephew played for me. And so at about the time, a couple years prior to that, Nate Woody, who was defense coordinator at Wofford College, whose defense I had been studying and trying to learn at the time, being a high school coach and going to these Glacier clinics and doing all these different things and, trying to go learn as much ball as you can. I kind of had a lot of passion and interest in what they were doing defensively. And that was kind of my foot in the door. And so Dale just showed me a tremendous amount of hospitality and a tremendous amount of, he just mentored me. And they just took me in. So that group of that staff at the time was, Dale Jones. It was Mark Ivey, who's at the University of Louisville now. Brian Brown, who's our defense coordinator at the University of Cincinnati. Scott Sloan, who's defense coordinator at App State currently. And then Nate Woody, who I worked for at Army. So it was just that group of guys, man. They just took me in and really took me under their wing and just let me bug them. I was going up there all the time. There wasn't vacations. If I had a chance to go, there was times I would get in my car and drive up to App State for a day just to sit in on meetings, because every time I went, I was bringing something back. And I just felt like, man, they just really poured into me and built me up. And when Coach Satterfield got the opportunity to go to the University of Louisville as the head coach, and Coach Brown called me and offered me that job, man, there was no doubt I was going to take it. I think as you look around, there's a lot of guys that coach a lot of football and done a lot of things, man. But to have the opportunity to coach in the ACC, I'm not sure how often that comes around for people. And for a kid like me from rural Northwest Georgia to have the opportunity to coach at that level and be surrounded by people that I knew and had familiarity with, and also the honor of just feeling like they trusted me to go with them and to do a job for them, and that just wasn't something I could turn down. And I love my hometown high school. Yeah. I was having a great time coaching there, but man, that was a once in a lifetime thing, man. And so I kind of took the gamble and said, hey, if it doesn't work out, I can always go back to high school, but opportunity to coach in the ACC doesn't come around every time a lot. So I took a leap of faith, man, and here we are.
Yeah. Now, for those of people that aren't familiar with college football, it's like, what does a quality control coach actually do? Right. Yeah. So break that down for people who aren't in the weeds of football, because you're not manufacturing anything, but the quality sounds important.
I would say, man, I think to make the list a lot shorter, what does a quality control coach not do? We did everything, and I think that's probably one of the. To be honest, it's probably the best thing for me. You go from being a high school head coach and having all these players and coaches under you in middle schools and all this, and to get the piece of humble pie, man, where you're fetching coffee, you're running errands, you're doing all these other little things. And there's a lot of football that we got to do and a lot of learning, but a lot of it was humility, man, and learning how to serve again, which was tremendous. But being a quality control coach, man, there's nothing you don't do. And I think to be a good one, there's nothing you can't say you won't do. So no job was beneath me. I did pretty much everything you could imagine and tried to try to function as much as the support of the full-time coaches as possible. So the full-time coaches are responsible for on-the-field coaching, and anything outside of that we assisted with and tried to help with. So like I said, it was there wasn't a lot that I didn't do, but it was a really tremendous experience for me.
Love it. Yeah, and you see GAs, quality control coaches, like doing everything under the sun that a position coach, coordinator, or head coach just does not want to do. Yeah. Like making copies, getting the playbooks ready, right? Every single thing.
Yeah, it was, man. Like I said, it was. That's something that gets lost sometimes. Is, man, how much of you think when you're a coach or you're a head coach or you're whatever, you're in a leadership position, but man, it's really about it's service through leadership. You know what I mean? And so I think that's something I really learned big time there was just it was humility and servant-minded leadership, and just being a person that says what needs to be done, I'll do it. There was no job too big or too little that I wasn't willing to do, and I think that experience kind of greatly helped mold me into the coach I am today.
No doubt. I mean, at this point too, it's not like, some guys come out and just out of college and they're doing this, right? Or they're like in their young 20s doing it. You had a successful 5, 6, 7, 8-year run, if my math's correct, right, at the high school ranks. So like, you're still a young man, but you're not a fresh college kid doing this. So how much humility did that take of looking at the other GAs, maybe some other quality control coaches that are completely wet behind the ears, to you being a well-tenured coach, a successful coach, doing some of this stuff?
I think it was probably it was difficult, but it was so necessary. Like, it was a immediate ego check at the door. Like, and everything became about the betterment of the program. Like, it wasn't about Courtney Braswell, the individual, Courtney Braswell, this high school head coach that's now coming to coach in college. It was literally about, this is what's best for the team. This is the role that I need you to be in. So if I was fetching coffee, I was going to fetch it with a smile on my face, with a great attitude, because that was for the betterment of the team. And so I think so many people want to run in there and coach and be the coordinator and be the head coach, but they don't know how to serve. And so I think just being able to serve was just so valuable to me from a standpoint of like, yeah, I want to do all these other things football wise. I want to coordinate and scheme and plan and do practice plans and all these other things. But man, can I really do that if I'm above running copies? Can I really do those things? And so just the ego check at the door, the humility of it. And it kind of fed into that same thing of like, man, just take care of today. Like, don't worry about the end result or what it is you're trying to do. Uphold the standard of doing the absolute best you can today, and all that other stuff will take care of itself. So when you're hit with, hey, can you go get my coffee? Can you go pick this up? Can you run these copies off? Can you carry this down? Whatever it may be, when you're hit with those things, you kind of find out how serious are you about that standard? How serious are you really about the things you say you want to do and the person that you are? Because it's so easy when you're the man and you're the coach and you're doing all these great things and people are patting you on the back, but how hard are you willing to work when you're behind the scenes and doing stuff that nobody will ever really know about? Like, how much do you care about that job then? And so for me, it was the most important thing. It was the most valuable thing. It's something I carry along with me now. That work ethic, that character development. Like, are you complaining when somebody has you do something that you feel like is beneath you, so to speak? And so, man, it was an adjustment. It wasn't difficult. It was just an adjustment, I guess. And it kind of fell in line with, like, it's almost like God says, okay, you say you want to do these things. How serious are you about them? Yeah. Here's the opportunity to live out what it is you say. Because it's easy to do it when you feel good and they're high-fiving, but do you want to do it when you don't feel like it? And so for me, man, it was just a tremendous, tremendous learning experience. I don't think I can harp on that enough. And just the character development, for lack of better words, man, that's probably
no one wants it. No one wants that character development.
Everybody wants the character. Nobody wants the character development.
Now we're talking. Yeah. That's the difference. Well, obviously you're good at it, dude, right? Because you weren't there for long, right? You left Louisville. You got an opportunity to go up to App State and be a position coach, right?
Yeah.
Maybe some coffees here or there for the big man just to stay in his good graces, but you made that move pretty quick. So talk to me about that transition, and was that another no-brainer for you to go from quality control coach at Louisville to a position coach at App?
Oh, sure, man. It was just the other opportunity to be a full-time on-the-field coach at a place like App that had played such a crucial role in my development as a coach was just, like I said, that was surreal. And to do it with, who had been one of my mentors, Dale Jones, to have that opportunity. So he left Louisville as the inside linebackers coach and went to Appalachian as the defensive coordinator. And so for him to take me with him, man, that was surreal because part of that humility thing is all these guys that I got to know through my high school career that have been coaching at App and now coaching these other places, man. For lack of better words, I idolize those guys. Like, I never saw myself in the same conversation, the same room as those guys. So to be in those rooms and to have them have that kind of confidence in me, I feel a tremendous amount of responsibility. And there was a lot of pride in that, feeling like, man, you feel like I can do this job. And so to be able to do it at a place that had been just immensely successful over the years and had a proven track record of developing players and coaches. And I mean, the App State coaching tree is as long as any I've ever seen. To be able to do that and get my first year there and to do the things that we were able to do in the midst of a really difficult year with it being COVID. I mean, that was a really difficult time. But to be able to do that, man, was just, I don't think words can really describe how awesome that was.
Well, and you mentioned this earlier of just feeling the need to take that next step in your career, right? Because you feel like on the playing side, it didn't really happen the way you wanted to. I would imagine one, just getting on at Louisville is a big deal, right? Just to be in that stadium at a big time program, but then having your role increased and having a guy trust you and obviously admire your skill set to bring you on to a program like App State, right? Not the cream of the crop, but, a really solid program where, they're a top 100, top 75, top 50 program in the country. And there's 10, 15 position coaches on each staff. Like, you're looking at yourself as a top echelon type of coach in the country, right? So that had to feel good to take that next step.
Yeah, I think, and they've been so immensely successful, man. I mean, from 3 FCS national championships, top 25 finishes in FBS, going 5-0 in bowl games up until that time. Like, I mean, they had done so many great things. I mean, they statistically have been the most successful move-up program in the history of college football. And so to step into that role, knowing the people that we follow and the standard that they had set and, the tradition of the program and the expectation of that program in that place, man, it was you feel a tremendous amount of responsibility to carry on that legacy. And so to do it with Dale Jones, who had been at App State for, at the time, I guess 25 years at the time, to do it with him, to be able to do it at that place, my first year out, like, man, it was just awesome. Because again, you don't, in my mind, I'm still the lowly high school coach from North Georgia that's just trying to figure out where the bathroom is and just trying to stick around and hang out. And man, you don't feel like you belong, but to be taken under the wing of so many awesome people, man, and for them to make you feel so welcome and at home, and again to build you up and tutor you and mentor you and all those things, man. It's that's how you grow, And I've grown so much because of that, and I'm just so thankful for that.
Yeah, and then as you move on from App State to West Point, right, with Army, a really special place, right? I had the opportunity to bring my son up, see you there, and check out a game. It's really cool. First time I was ever up there. It's just a different spot than any place else in college football. And now moving up from there to Cincinnati. As you made those transitions, did you follow those same core principles and the same standards along the way of, busting your hump, showing up, doing what's expected of you, trying to win the day? Or has that evolved a little bit for you as you made these transitions from one spot to the next?
I don't think that I think the goal of what you're trying to do ultimately probably changed a little bit. You feel like there's other things you want to do. You want to have a guy that's the conference player of the year. You want to have all conference guys, all those things. But, again, I just think, goals change and standards don't. So the same things that got me to this point are the same things I want to keep perfecting. Like, remember how hard you have to work. Remember how much you got to study. Remember, to always treat people with the utmost respect. Remember to love your players and not just say it, but do it in practice. All those things, man, have just become quintessential of my story and my career. And I want to make sure I'm always doing those, particularly when you don't feel like it sometimes. I tell my guys all the time, there's going to be days where you're upset with me and I'm upset with you, but we got to love each other through it. That's how we got to this point. And so I don't think that part will ever change. I think if it does, then it's probably time for me to get out. And so I think having that work ethic, believing in it and working fervently all the time at all things and being a lifelong learner and constantly trying to grow, I think those are the things that have kind of helped me get to this point. And so, gosh, I don't ever want to lose sight of that, because that's all the process of becoming a better coach, becoming a better father, becoming a better person overall. And then that other stuff, man, it's just the result of that. Like, I'm not emotionally tied to that part. What I try to be in love with every day is the process of getting to that point. And so I think as long as you do that, man, I think you got a chance to really, really, really excel yourself in all ways.
Yeah. Now, one of the tricky things about college football, right, and coaching specifically, is attaching yourself to the right staff and the right people, right? Which as you've seen and we've kind of talked about is, every year or two, if you're doing really well, you're probably moving up. And if not, you're getting fired,
Yeah.
Right? So and then once you get to the Power Five, you just try to hang around with the right staff as long as you can and keep on moving up. There's that component of things changing just about every year sometimes. But then there's also the financial side of it too, right? So as you go from Louisville of making, I don't even know. I mean, you remember how much you made at Louisville as a quality control coach?
We'll say not a lot.
Minimum wage, right? Just about, right? To like ascending pretty quickly to a Power Five at a position coach, making some nice paper, right? So how do you try to navigate that, or how have you of attaching yourself to the right staff to advance your career, hang around at that level, but also make sure, right, you're making more than nothing like you were when you first got into coaching?
Well, I think for me, it's probably I came from nothing. I grew up with nothing, so having anything is something. For me, it's I would do it for free, and there's been a lot of times where I have done it for free. But I think the financial component of it is secondary. My purpose and my why and my ministry, I feel like, is being able to pour into people what my coaches and my teammates poured into me. I've said before, and maybe it's selfishly so, but I want my players to feel about me the way I felt about Frank Hickson and Marshall Robertson, Robert Wembley, and Danny Rocco. Like, I want them to feel about me the way I felt about those guys. And I want to pour into them the way that those guys poured into us. And so, the financial component is awesome. It's great. It certainly gives you a lot of flexibility and gives you the ability to for me, it's given me the ability to do more for my family than what we could do for ourselves when we were growing up. And my mom worked her tail off, but for me, that part is probably secondary, but it's certainly brought up another part of my life that I never had to worry about. It's the financial component of it. How do you deal with those kind of things? How do you transition from the mindset of like, oh, hang on to everything you got because you never know, to having what you feel like is a little bit more financial security. So it's the money part is great. Like I said, I would do it for free, but it's good to have. It's good to feel like you can better provide for your family and have a little more freedom in how you live your life.
Yeah. I mean, the money doesn't make you happy, but it makes it a lot easier sometimes to go on a trip, buy a ticket, eat where you want to eat, take the family out, appreciate them a little bit. So, and it's been, just knowing you personally, it's been cool not only just to watch your ascent, right, from being in the same locker room together when we were 18 to seeing you be a Power Five coach today, but then off the field of seeing you take a trip overseas, which you probably thought you never quite do, right? When we were sitting together in St. Rufus. So, how are you trying to balance that now that you're probably doing better than what you thought you could have done when you started at Louisville just a couple short years ago? So how are you trying to balance all that of growing your career, now enjoying yourself a little bit too, and having all of those things, work together?
I think the best word is carefully. I think, and having people like you. This is a free plug, but having the great folks at Opulus to help me out with that is just.
Appreciate you. This is not an endorsement. This was not a paid for advertisement.
But I mean, it's literally having people that, number one, just mentorship again from coaches that have been doing it for a long time, that understand how that part works, that have families, and first thing is take care of family first, and then just have a plan about what it is you want to do, what you want to spend, and what how you want to grow yourself financially as well as career wise. Like, I had goals for myself and standards for myself from a professional standpoint. I probably should have those financially, which honestly, I never really did until I got to this point. And so, number one, just being on a mentorship of other coaches that have been there that understand kind of how the financial part works. Surrounding yourself with people like you that really are in your pocket, that care about you, that you can trust, that give you great financial advice. And then just like your professional career, having a financial plan about here are the goals I want to achieve, here are the things I want to set for myself, and then working towards those every single day. I think those things are pretty much synonymous about going about it the same way. And so I think the hard part for me growing up without a lot was just enjoying yourself a little bit. Like you always kind of felt like spending money on leisure was frivolous, like it's irresponsible. And we get one life to live, man. I heard a quote that said, a man lives two lives and the second one starts the first time he realizes he has one. And so I really feel like that when you realize there's a whole world out there, and then you get to a place where you have the means to go see those things, you want to go do it. But it's also about what can I leave my family? What can I leave my sons, and what kind of example can I set for them financially? Like, I was a full-grown adult man in the recent past before I had my first real savings account. And so just learning, number one, financial responsibility, financial literacy, and learn how to grow your money and do it responsibly, man. I think that just comes from pulling from you and other people just kind of helping me along with that.
Yeah, and you think about a lot of the guys that we played with and that you coach now, like how many of those guys are going to be very successful in life, right?
Yeah.
Make some money, but lack the fundamental skills that are going to allow them to be financially successful.
Yeah. Right. And it's literally educating yourself. And I was fortunate, like I said, again, it's kind of like my coaching career. I've been fortunate enough to have people like you and people like other guys that I've coached with or played for that just took interest in showing me the way and passing that knowledge down to help you figure those things out. Because, man, it's really easy to be financially illiterate. It's very easy to do that and to blow things and to blow a really good situation. I mean, it doesn't matter if you make $40,000 or $400,000. Like, there's something that can be saved, something that can be spent, and something that can grow. That's just the way that it is. And if you want to have that kind of financial stability, you want that financial freedom, there's some sacrifice involved in that. But it wasn't near as much as I thought it would, sacrificing. It's just have a plan, stick to the plan. Yeah. And you've helped me out tremendously with that. So
I appreciate you, man. What was the biggest surprise for you on the financial side and maybe making that transition? Like, we hear a lot of times, like, man, like the contracts, like, what do I ask for? What do I not ask for? What's reasonable? How do I step away from, my old staff that helped me out to take this new opportunity and navigating, all of that stuff? Because you want to be loyal to them, but you also want to say, well, if I can make double the amount of money and have a similar position at a Power 5 instead of this conference, how has that part been for you and just in talking to other coaches about that?
One of the best parts about relationships in this business is helping you kind of grow yourself professionally and get to other places you may not have gotten to on your own, is that I've been fortunate to be in the same tree, in the same core group of guys that know each other well, that I trust, that have really mentored me. And so every move that I've been able to make has been with somebody that I knew cared about me as a person, or a head coach that I knew cared about me as a person. Like, there was no doubt in my mind Jeff Monken and Scott Satterfield cared about me as a person. And so I felt like that when they entrusted me with these jobs, and then working with Nate Woody and working with Brian Brown again, those are people that I think have a vested interest in me as a person, as I have in them. And so you feel like that you get really good information from them, and you get true like mentorship and true leadership in all facets of life. And I think that's the beautiful thing about the people that I work for, is like, I've grown as a coach, but I've grown as a person, as a father, so much more because of my interactions with them. And so, to be quite frank, man, I've kind of been spoiled because I've been surrounded by people that I love and that I trust and I really care about, that have really poured into me in all ways, that have access to a lot more information, a lot more guidance than a lot of folks probably would otherwise.
Is it like that everywhere, right? Because, I mean, like, we're a completely different industry than you guys are, a completely different approach. But if an advisor's leaving a shop, right, or a company, no one's talking about shit, right? You're not telling anybody, and it's like you're getting out quick, fast, because if you even bring up the idea that you're interviewing or talking to anybody else, like, you're getting fired, you're getting canned. Right.
Yeah.
So is it like that at other places, or I would imagine you're not seeing coaches get fired because they're talking to other staffs, but like, what is that balance like if you don't have that great relationship, or you are unfortunate to have the tree that you are to, or if you've been on very successful teams, like you're on a team that's just losing, you ain't gonna be hanging around too long, right?
Yeah, I think that kind of comes into the professional goals of like, man, you got to surround yourself with like-minded people that are more vested in you than just the Saturday results. I've been fortunate that I'm sure those situations exist. I pray that I'm never in something like that, but I've been surrounded by guys that I really, truly believe in, like people that I spend time with outside the white lines. And to me, that's made all the difference in the world. Quality of life, financial stability, mentorship, tutorship, growth, professionally, all those things. Like, doesn't mean you always get along. Doesn't mean everything's always rosy. Doesn't mean you're always 12-0 undefeated and Super Bowl champs. It doesn't always mean those things. But what it does mean is that, like, there's a I guess there's a brotherhood there that's deeper than ball. And so for me, it's been like I've been really fortunate that I've not had a situation where I've not felt like that. I feel like I can go in my defense coordinator's office and shut the door and be like, "This is what's on my mind," or "What do you think about this?" or whatever. And that's one of the things I've just loved about our coaching tree and the guys I've gotten to work for. Is I can imagine there's probably some people out there that are really miserable and don't have that kind of security, but I think our camaraderie goes so far beyond the white lines, man, that I'm really thankful for it. That doesn't mean that there won't be tough decisions down the road. Or I think somebody said there's a quote, there's two types of coaches that are getting fired and coaches that have been fired. Like ultimately that happens to everybody. But I think with the people that I've been with, man, I just feel like I've taken so much from them. They've given so much to me and I hadn't had to face a lot of that. I can imagine there's some animosity out there in a lot of places. But man, I've been really, really lucky, really lucky.
That's great, man. Well, so big season coming up for Cincinnati, right? I'm not going to ask you to give me any win predictions or anything like that, but as you look at the season, like what's the thing you're looking forward to? I want to get into a few quick financial questions with you.
Man, I think the first thing is I think the most exciting thing is Nip at night. So we play in Nipper Stadium. I've heard about Nipper Stadium at night, man. So having the opportunity in this city with these fans in a town that is sports crazy, they love their teams here. To have the opportunity to do that's going to be really awesome. To be in the inaugural season of the Big 12 is going to be awesome. And just see the growth, man. The previous staff and Coach Fickle did this tremendous job of building the program and continuing, the success. This program's had so much success. I think I've had over a 68% winning percentage over the last 20 seasons. And so they know how to win football games here. So we're looking forward to continue that tradition and seeing the growth of this football team and what this staff can do. And hopefully we can build on past success, man, and keep this thing going.
Yeah, plus, you got one of the best logos in college football, my humble opinion.
No doubt.
All right, man. So few financial questions here for you if you're ready. So as you look back here, I guess your best money move and your worst money move. So you can take those in whatever order you'd like to. So best and worst.
I'll tell you what, man. The worst is probably anything like any debt related anything was the worst, like whatever it may be. And I think the one that sticks out to me was like needing a car really bad and getting a rinky-dink car with an insane interest rate and overpaying for it just to have a car, and just debt in general. Because all of a sudden that thing just snowballs on you. Next thing you know, you're drowning. And so I would say that's probably the worst thing. Just I remember I had like a 26% interest rate on a car that was like just something crazy like that, back when I was much younger. And it's just like, man, that was such a foolish decision on my part. I would also say not having a plan was probably the worst thing. Never having a financial plan, like I said, whether it's $40,000, $4,000, or $400,000, having a plan about what I'm going to spend, what I'm going to save, and what I'm going to grow. Not having a plan, I think, was just a terrible, terrible decision on my part. And just always having the excuse why I didn't save, why I didn't save. Because at the end of the day, I kind of feel like, for me personally, I can't speak for everybody, but when I'm not saving, it means I'm not willing to sacrifice. That's how it's been interpreted to me and how I feel about it. If I'm not saving, I'm not willing to sacrifice. I'm not willing to sacrifice. And I really don't want that financial freedom that I said I wanted. And so those are probably the worst thing. The best thing is just the flip of that, of just having a plan. Like sitting down and like, here's what I make, here's what I'm going to spend, here's what I'm going to save, here's what I'm going to grow. And sticking to that plan, man, just formulating a plan alleviates, and I got from you, just automating that process alleviates so much stress, and the focus now becomes on career because everything else is taken care of. I know my family's taken care of. I know my boys are taken care of. I know my bills are taken care of, like all those things. And like you said, man, it frees you up to do so many things because there's nothing to worry about. So automating that process, trusting it, coming up with a plan, those have been the best. That's been the best financial decisions I've ever made.
I love it. Well, I'm glad you've listened to me a little bit along the way.
Yeah, man. It's all right. Yeah.
No, man, but all the kind of credit goes to you. It's been awesome to see not only your progression from on the field as a coach, but in the time that we spent together and how much of a sponge you are, just like wanting to soak this up to better your financial life for you, for your family, for your future. It's been a lot of fun. So So part of words of wisdom, man, here, like if you had to go back, tell your younger self, a thing or two about your career, about finances, whatever it is, what would that be for your words of wisdom? I need you to put on your coach hat. Give me your best stuff here, man. I know it's late. Season's right around the corner, but I need the good stuff.
Best words of wisdom, man. I think I heard Tom Hanks on this thing say one time, he said, "This too shall pass." Like, I think as a younger person, I was so nearsighted. How I felt during this run, how I felt how my coach was coaching me, how I felt my girlfriend was treating me. I was so nearsighted. And it seemed like the whole universe and everything that would ever be was what was happening in that very moment. And so the inability to have foresight about what's down the road, whether it was financial decisions, career decisions, whatever, I wish I would have had more foresight. Take a breath, understand this too shall pass, and just grind it out, man. Like, that's probably the thing that I probably most regret, because there's no telling where things would have been today. Now, I do believe things take the path they're supposed to take, and you end up where you're supposed to end up. But ultimately, I think that's the thing that I probably was missing. I just wasn't probably mentally tough enough, because everything was just in the moment, how I felt in that moment, what was going on in that moment, and was so up and down, man. So I wish I would have, if I could go back and do anything different, just understand, man, this is going to pass. Like, whatever it is, the good's going to pass too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
A verse I'm constantly reminded of, man, is Romans 8:28. It says, all things work together for the good, but it does not say that all things will be good. And so I think that's something that if I could go back and tell my younger self, I would have done so many things differently. Just had a little more foresight, a little more maturity to say, like, okay, it's not always going to be like this. Things are going to get better. I probably would have appreciated the hard times a little bit more, and the good times probably would have been more frequent. Particularly with how I was coached, how I played, how I applied myself academically, financially, all those things. So that's probably the thing that probably sticks out in my mind the most.
Awesome, man. Well, listen, we'll leave it there. I really appreciate you making the time. I know you got camp right around the corner here. By the time this airs, we'll be in the thick of it. So, best of luck to you and the Bearcats this season. Hopefully, I'll try to see if I can squeeze my way out to Ohio to catch a game this year, man. But, yeah, I love just spending time with you, buddy, and excited to see you guys be really successful this year, and, appreciate your time.
Man, no problem, dog. I appreciate you, man. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah. Now, if anyone wants to give you a follow, social, where's the best spot they can find you?
So you can follow me on Twitter. It's at Court.
It's actually at X. It's not Twitter anymore.
Oh, yeah, that's true. At X. I don't even know what's happening. Is it done? Is that a done thing already? I don't even know what's happening.
They took the sign down at their headquarters, so it's
it's getting real. So you can follow me at X or at the artist formerly known as Twitter at Court Braswell, CortBraswell. That's probably the best place to follow me. So, man, I appreciate it, Ryan.
Yeah, same here, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, dog.